In the 1920s, Giuseppe "Joe the Boss" Masseria held control over mafia operations in the United States. His faction consisted mainly of gangsters from Sicily, Calabria, and Campania. Notable members included Charles "Lucky" Luciano, Albert "Mad Hatter" Anastasia, Vito Genovese, Alfred Mineo, Willie Moretti, Joe Adonis, and Frank Costello. However, Don Vito Ferro, a powerful Sicilian figure, aimed to take control of mafia operations. He dispatched Salvatore Maranzano from Castellammare del Golfo to seize power. Maranzano's faction, known as the Castellammarese, included Joseph "Joe Bananas" Bonanno, Stefano the Undertaker Magaddino, Joseph Profaci, and Joe Aiello. As tensions heightened, it became evident that these two factions would clash for leadership of the mafia. In response, both sides sought to recruit more followers to bolster their ranks. During the Castellammarese War, the conflict appeared to be between the forces of Masseria and Maranzano. However, beneath the surface, there was a generational clash between the old guard Sicilian leaders, known as the Mustache Petes, and the younger, more diverse Italian-American group called the Young Turks. The Mustache Petes adhered to old world ways and refused to do business with non-Italians. On the other hand, the Young Turks, who had grown up in the United States, were more forward-thinking and willing to work with non-Italians. This difference in approach led Masseria's followers to question his ability to lead the mafia in the modern era. As the feud escalated, violent clashes erupted on the streets of New York City. In February 1930, Giuseppe Masseria ordered the killing of Gaspar Milazzo, the president of Detroit's chapter of Unione Siciliana. This act was in response to Milazzo's refusal to support Masseria in a dispute involving the Chicago outfit and Al Capone. The conflict within the Masseria faction began on February 26, 1930, when Masseria ordered the murder of Gaetano Reina, one of his own allies. A young Vito Genovese carried out the killing with a shotgun. Masseria's motive was to protect his secret allies, including Tommy Galliano, Tommy Lucchese, and Dominic "the Gap" Petrilli. However, this act of treachery would later backfire as the Reina family switched their allegiance to Maranzano. Another target of the Castellammarese faction was Vito Bonventre. Castellammarese-born members of Niccolò Schiro's gang began to pose a threat to Masseria's control over mafia gangs. In response, Masseria forced Schiro to pay him a hefty sum of $10,000 and stepped down as the gang's boss. On July 15, 1930, Bonventre was assassinated outside his garage. In the ongoing Castellammarese War, the violence continued to escalate. On August 15, 1930, loyalists of the Castellammarese faction executed Giuseppe Morello, a key enforcer for Masseria, at Morello's office in East Harlem. During the attack, a visitor named Giuseppe Peraino was also killed. Just 2 weeks later, Masseria faced another setback. Joseph Pinsolo, whom Masseria had appointed to take over the ice distribution racket after Reina's murder, was shot and killed by the Reina family at a Times Square office rented by Lucchese. These two murders led to the formal alliance between the Reina crew and the Castellammarese faction. In retaliation, Masseria launched a counterattack. On October 23, 1930, Joe Aiello, an ally of the Castellammarese and the president of the Chicago Unione Siciliana, was murdered in Chicago. As the Castellammarese War continued, and following Aiello's murder, the tide of the feud shifted in favor of the Castellammarese faction. On November 5, 1930, two significant murders took place. Alfred Mineo, a key member of Masseria's gang, and Steve Ferrigno were both killed. Francesco Scalic inherited control of Mineo's gang and defected to the Maranzano faction. This defection marked a turning point as many other members of Masseria's gang began to switch sides, blurring the original battle lines of the conflict. On February 3, 1931, another important lieutenant of Masseria, Joseph Catania, was gunned down. He succumbed to his injuries 2 days later. These targeted assassinations further weakened Masseria's position and solidified the growing strength of the Maranzano faction. The balance of power was shifting, and the Castellammarese were gaining the upper hand in the war. In the midst of the escalating conflict, Giuseppe Masseria's allies, Lucky Luciano and Vito Genovese, initiated communication with Salvatore Maranzano, the leader of the Castellammarese faction. They proposed a deal. If Maranzano would end the feud, Luciano and Genovese would betray Masseria. A compromise was reached, leading to a fateful agreement. On April 15, 1931, at Nuova Villa Tamaro, a restaurant in Coney Island, Brooklyn, the plan was set in motion. While playing cards, Luciano allegedly excused himself to the bathroom.
I gotta take a leak.
Joe, this ain't number 16.
It is believed that the gunmen involved in the assassination were Albert Anastasia, Vito Genovese, Joe Adonis, and Benjamin Bugsy Siegel. Ciro, the Artichoke King Terranova, was responsible for driving the getaway car, although legend has it that he was too shaken up to drive away and had to be pushed out of the driver's seat by Siegel. According to the New York Times, the police were unable to definitively determine what transpired. It is reported that Masseria was seated at a table playing cards with 2 or 3 unknown individuals when he was suddenly shot from behind. He sustained gunshot wounds to his head, back, and chest, which proved fatal. Interestingly, Masseria's autopsy report indicated that he had an empty stomach at the time of his death. Despite the incident taking place in a public setting, no witnesses came forward to provide concrete information. However, it was noted that 2 or 3 men were seen leaving the restaurant and getting into a stolen car. The lack of witnesses and the presence of an alibi for Lucky Luciano, who was allegedly involved in the assassination, resulted in no one being convicted for Masseria's murder.